Well, Drew McIntyre got suspended last week, and now he's back, officially in War Games. Leave it to Paul Heyman to figure out how to pull that off. The contract apparently says you can put anyone on your team in War Games from any brand, even if they're suspended. Kind of weird to even bother suspending him if you're going to do this. I don't know. I mean, I don't have like a big I'm not outraged by it. It just seems kind of silly to suspend him and then do that. I guess it's this one match he gets to have, and then he's still suspended. So I guess that still serves perhaps a purpose. We will see. But 4 of the 5 spots filled. So we got Logan Paul, Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, and now Drew McIntyre with 1 spot to fill on the heel side of War Games. Chris, what'd you think of the way that story was told tonight in that development?
I agree with you, kind of the weird caveat of being suspended and being in this match, but they have to get to a 5-on-5 some way, and so they're trying to weave people together. I actually thought that this may seem odd, but the storyline with Solo's group and the babyfaces actually made more sense for a War Games match. They actually were more interwoven together, but they're not obviously the level of stars that will be in the War Games match. So it's okay. It just isn't, they kind of I feel like they're kind of throwing people together at this last moment because they have a War Games match coming up in 2 weeks.
I do wonder if Seth was healthy, and I haven't seen reporting on this. I don't have any knowledge of it. If Seth weren't injured, if Logan would have been on the team also, added. And so are they by the time we get the 5th person, does it seem then clear, that's an add-on, or no, probably Seth would have been in Logan's place. We'll see. On the Cody Rhodes side of things, how do you think that he came across tonight? I know Corey Graves kind of framed him as being crazy to volunteer to put his title on the line on short notice against Bronson Reed. Cody wanting to just show he's up for a fight. He'll defend his friends. He'll put his title on the line to try to show up. He also, talk about that. That obviously was a bit of the bee to honey for Drew McIntyre also in the main event.
Yeah, I feel it was sort of kind of a way just to get there. It didn't really, obviously Cody did interfere or get himself involved with Raw, so I think it was something to do. I always complain whenever I watch these shows, it's like they didn't have a planned main event apparently, so thankfully Bronson Reed showed up and Cody showed up as well. Yeah. They didn't know, I guess the main event would have been, what was the last previous match? I guess Jay Cargill versus B-Fab would have been the main event if not for that. But I feel it's just sort of, I feel like the whole show is just sort of just trying to get by booking. So it was fine, but it wasn't really exciting.
Yeah. I didn't mind the show, but it felt like, it's 2 hours and we're just sort of putting in an effort and moving things forward. And that's fine. I used to criticize weekly wrestling shows. It felt like every week had to be reinventing things or creating this huge buzz. And this just felt like they sat down and kind of mapped out what they wanted to do. And they felt that, a Jade wrestling match, an impromptu Cody title defense, a couple tournament matches, a surprise to hook people early, and U.S. title open challenge was enough to be a 2-hour SmackDown. And it was enough. It's not like red hot sizzling, tons of podcast conversation fodder, admittedly, on a show like this, but enough to just kind of cover the bases and move forward. And that's what they did, and that's what we'll do.
It was cool for me to see. I lived in Albany for 9 years, so it was cool to see that.
Oh, nice. Albany, yeah. Anything stand out? That felt very Albany-like?
No, other than those the posters, I guess, in Nick Aldis's office, Oz's office, were clearly fake, because I don't think Antonio Inoki wrestled Muhammad Ali in Albany, or Stan Hansen wrestled Bruno Sammartino, but
they're making up history. Yeah. Shame on them. So what do you think they're doing with Usos? Usos run out for the save. Jimmy and Jay united. Any hints of anything happening here? It's sort of it feels like they just sort of made the stuff with Rome. Fans are chanting OTC at the end. I don't know when we'll see him or under what context or conditions, but Jimmy and Jay just are sort of just being the Usos right now. Does it seem like they kind of tried to move away from other storylines? Or are they just on hold, or what?
I think they sort of did tease a little bit of a tension between them, because Jimmy said, I call CM Punk, who apparently is the team captain of the team, or the one who can put people on. And I got to be on the. He told Cody that he got to be on the War Games team, much to the surprise of his brother. So he did not call his twin brother first to be on the team. He called CM Punk, and Jay kind of had a look on his face, but then they were like hyping up Cody for his match. So I think it's one of those things where my guess is in the match there'll be some sort of, they'll end up hitting each other, and Jay might make a choice that has the crowd going against him. But that was pretty much the only storyline movement there in their dissension.
Yep. All right. Well, let's pause and introduce the show here, and then we'll bring some callers on and talk about other stuff on the show. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show on Friday, November 14th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com, and the host of various podcasts, including these post shows. After Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, we live stream them on the PWTorch YouTube channel and then distribute them as an audio-only podcast on all your popular podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there. Search Wade Keller and subscribe to both the Red Logo Show, which is these post shows, and the Blue Logo Show, which is our flagship and our media Q&As, our interviews, our pay-per-view previews, and flashbacks. Some fun 15 years ago flashback call-in episodes go up on the weekends, and so it's worth checking those out. It's kind of a fun time machine to flashback and see what we're talking about on a format like this 15 years ago with some familiar voices and some names from the past. Again, that's your search term there is Wade Keller to get both the Red and Blue Show. While you're at it, search PWTorch to get the PWTorch Daily Cast feed, a different show each day of the week with different hosts, such as Acknowledging WWE with Javier Machado. We've got the really fun 90s Passcast, where Patrick and Alex review a Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter from 30 years ago that week, pull some things out that I said, laugh at them, make fun of them. I mean, talk about how prescient all my analysis was and predictions were, and spot on my thoughts on future stars, all that fun stuff. We got the AW Bay Show, the All Elite Conversation Club, and we have Wrestling Coast to Coast with Chris Maitland and Justin McClelland. And it just so happens, as I plug that show, that there might be a familiar face there, and that is Chris Maitland. He is my co-host tonight here on the SmackDown Post Show. Chris, welcome back to the co-host chair.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. Plug your show. Tell people what you've been up to and what's coming up next.
Sure. We host Wrestling Coast to Coast. I'm the co-host of Wrestling Coast to Coast with my very good friend over 25 years, Justin McClelland. We talk about a different independent wrestling show every week, analyze it, go over it, any big news. There's a lot of news going on in the WWE ID world. They're about to crown a new women's champion on the November 17th Wrestling Open show, Beyond Wrestling, outside of in New England. That's actually the show we're going to cover next week, Beyond Wrestling's American Rana, which is taken on currently. Last week we covered AAW, a promotion out of Chicago. The promotion we haven't covered in a while, and a show we didn't really like that much, but our show is kind of unique in the fact that we select our shows based on the card or based on previous angles. So I try to really discuss independent wrestling in a lot of ways. It is sets up the future for wrestling. There are a lot of people I saw on today's show that I saw on the independent scene in various forms, even Cody and Drew at an Evolve show. At this
That's sweet.
Boom, in a story in New York. So, Justin and I record our show on Wednesday, and that's when it comes out on PWTorch.
Awesome. That is great. We got an endorsement here from Real Legend 326, who says Wrestling Coast to Coast is a much listen, especially if you're interested in the indies but don't have time to keep up. Goodfella says ACW is a local show that comes to Poughkeepsie nowadays. Get good talent and put on good shows.
We covered one of their shows maybe a few months ago. They had a lot of Northeast, some ex-WWE talent.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's called Awesome Championship Wrestling, by the way.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, cool. So if you want to be part of the show, you can email us, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com or wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. Either works. And we'd look forward to your questions, your comments, your rants, your observations. And that is an invitation, especially for people who listen to us on the podcast side of things, still want to be part of the show, but they can't be part of the chat or a live caller because you don't watch us live on YouTube, but you are watching the TV shows live. Send us a question. Send us your thoughts. Also, you can join us live in the format I just mentioned, our live chat on our YouTube channel. Got a good group of people there interacting with each other, familiar names, and you can join that group and converse about the shows with us. We put some of your comments on the screen as the show progresses, and you help add to the show when you're in the chat. We also invite live callers, video or audio only. You can find the link to that in my TV reports at PWTorch, covering SmackDown tonight, and then also Monday on Raw and Wednesday for Dynamite. So yeah, those are the ways to participate. We invite you to do so. And I think that's all we got to say. So let's, one more thing. We got our VIP sale going on. So I'll throw the plug up there. You can get $9 off a VIP subscription, a full VIP subscription. This includes not only our VIP exclusive podcasts, our ad-free podcast feed for our free shows, so the commercials are skipped over, edited out, but we also are offering, with a full VIP membership, access to the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter, the Wade Keller news bulletins, which is a new feature in recent weeks, which come out in a PDF, all text, and podcast format, about 16-minute podcast, one-page PDF. A big story that I write about, some news and notes, and my end notes where I give some random thoughts on random things. Then you also can unlock 20 years of podcast archives on demand, over 20 years. Pay-per-view roundtables for any shows dating back to roughly 2003 or 4. And also hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s that have been converted to podcast format, including my run on KFAN in the early 90s with live caller format, big-name guests. And our Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter back catalog. Most of the issues from our past are available with a single click in PDF or all text format or both, dating back to the late 1980s. Lots of good stuff. Go VIP. Check it out. If you haven't been around for a while, check out what we're doing these days. If you have never gone VIP, this is a good chance to do so with a small financial commitment. $3.99 for a full month. You can also apply that $9 discount to a 3-month or 12-month sub. We give, of course, like everybody, a break if you subscribe to a longer term. We just have fewer fees and it commits you longer, so we give you a discount. So take advantage of that. It's a limited time offer. The coupon code is NOV2025. NOV as in November 2025. And the website to go to find out about VIP information and get the link to our sign-up form is simple. pwtorch.com/govip. pwtorch.com/govip. Coupon code NOV2025. All right, let's shift to more conversation on SmackDown. Let's just bring Sean Plichta into the conversation early here and let him guide the way before we eat up his planned topics. Sean, good to see you. Good to presumably hear from you in just a second here. Welcome.
No, it's good to be on with you guys. I want to say, I'll just say get my VIP plug out of the way. You know, guys, if you're thinking about it, you know, just try it out. Like Wade said, just try it out. It's so much. You can't even keep up with everything. There's so much stuff. What you do with the news, I love that. You know, obviously the fix is must listen. Chris, I love what you do. I don't get a chance to listen to as much of you just because there's only so much time in a day, you know, but at the same time, everything's just great. You can't miss out. There's too much good stuff to listen to. So it's the best thing you'll ever do. For sure.
It is the best thing you'll ever do. Guaranteed. Better than skydiving for sure.
So I just want to talk about, I want to get the opening segment out of the way. Definitely had some thoughts on it. The one thing I'm not liking about Rhea and Io, even when Rhea was gone, since she's come back the little bit we've seen from her, I know they're family friendly and all those kinds of things. Sorry with my stupid dryer.
I didn't mind the buzzing. I just meant you. I was annoyed by you talking about it.
I just think
you got to hold to dig yourself out of now, Sean.
Well, I'm gonna dig myself. I'm gonna do my best. All
right. I'm just giving you time.
No, it's all good. I just thought they were too jokey, too jovial, too happy. Like, it's getting to the point where I don't want her to lose her edge. I think she has no edge right now. She's so happy, and her and Io just hugging it out, and just everything's so great. And it's supposed to be War Games. Let's make it somewhat serious about War Games and not be so jokey and happy. And just, I want Rhea to keep that edge. I want to bring that up first. Do you think she's losing an edge, and do you think she's on the right track right now? And with her and Io doing a lot of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, my dog is really happy when I get home when I'm gone for a while, but I don't think he's ever been as happy as Io Sky was to hang out in the ring with Rhea Ripley. I mean, she was just like, it was great. He's sitting right there. I mean, it was a little over the top, jovial and celebratory. And yeah, so I wasn't quite sure what to make of that. It felt my reference point is Jimmy Hart producing interviews for WCW Saturday Night and his reputation when he was helping produce those shows in the early 90s. He's like, turn it up, give us more enthusiasm, more is better. Just like you just encourage people to just go over the top. And yeah, I thought it was a little too much. Sadler version 3 says, yeah, Io's childish acting is too much for me. She's a woman in her mid-30s acting like she's 12. I feel the same way about her that Wade felt about Bianca doing her entrance. But Real Legend says, translation, Sean doesn't enjoy fun. LOL. Chris, what do you think?
I agree with Sean wholeheartedly. I don't think when we told our girls we were taking them to Disney World, they were as excited as Rhea and Io were. I mean, I think that's kind of the problem with War Games. Is supposed to be a very serious. It's a match you don't want to be in. It could change your career. That was the sort of whole premise of it. And now people are like, "Oh, I can't wait." It's like going to your favorite restaurant or a vacation. Like, oh, I just can't wait till next week when we get to do War Games. And
can't wait till Olive Garden Saturday night. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, I was actually really pleased with Charlotte. It was like, I always love kind of realistic, almost kind of like, I don't like you. I don't trust you. I don't want to be in this dangerous match. Alexa Bliss, you're my friend. I'll support you, but I'm not doing this. I thought, yes, someone is actually being realistic, not running to risk their career in a dangerous match. So totally. I know that's obviously going to be an angle into something, but I thought her reaction was a lot better than Io and Rhea's.
What do you think they're up to with that, Sean? Like, I'm joking, it's Jimmy Hart producing the promos, but Chris brings up a good point. It should feel more grim, more grave, there should be more gravitas, copyright Paul Heyman, to something as dangerous as they sell War Games. What are they going? What are they doing?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to go with the Charlotte part of it, because at first I looked away for a second, and so when they were like initially hugging, like I saw, and then I realized Alexa was hugging both of them, and Charlotte only hugged Io, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense what they were going for there. I don't really know. I think I like that they're talking about their history. That's what I loved about that part of when Charlotte started talking about that. She's like, I can't do it. But I wasn't expecting the Charlotte to say, I hate you. And I think you're a snake and all that. Like, that kind of just came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting. And that's what I'm saying. This is what I was going for, is Charlotte has been such a good character with Alexa and what they've been doing. It's not perfect, but it's making her more likable. And then all of a sudden, she's saying, I hate you and you're a snake and I can't do this with you. Could this hurt her knowing she's built up some stuff as a babyface and where her, could this hurt and make the fans be like, no, I don't know? Or is it just like, hey, no, this is a good story. Let's build to this story wherever they're going with Charlotte and Rhea.
What do you think, Chris?
I think it can work against her. I think they have to be very careful how they go forward with the storyline. Again, it made sense to me how that she didn't enter herself in the match, but people like wrestlers to fight even during difficult circumstances. So it could lead to a heel reaction for her.
Yeah, I mean, I like that there's a history, and just because you have common enemies, that doesn't mean you're going to be great friends. I think Bliss trying to manage what's going on is intriguing, because she's always kind of been the leader, the one who was kind of helping Charlotte come out of the funk that she was in, I guess would be the word to use, and she has. And so I'm just thinking this is a little story arc they just came up with to add a little drama. I don't think that it is indicative of like Charlotte turning heel or breaking up. I think it's just meant to be kind of a chance for Bliss to have another chance to show Charlotte that it's okay to forgive. Bliss's whole thing with Charlotte is just grow as a person, loosen up, don't be uptight, don't be insecure, don't be arrogant, all those things. And so this just kind of Charlotte maybe regressing a little in Bliss's eyes, but I think Bliss can also learn from it and go, maybe sometimes we do have to look out for ourselves and, acknowledge where Charlotte's coming from, that there is a history. You shouldn't naively forget about it, but it's also a chance to make amends. And when you fight alongside someone with a common cause, it can help make up for past issues you've had with someone. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too deeply about where they're going with this, but I've enjoyed the dynamic and what Bliss has done for Charlotte. And I think fans will just kind of be rooting once again, not just for Charlotte to be friends, but for Charlotte to show she can forgive or at least set aside tension. Sean, I saw you nodding there. You want to add to that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I actually like your point. I hope they go that route with Alexa talking to Charlotte about that and just saying, I mean, I understand why Charlotte again would not want to team with Rhea. Like, I get it. There's some hostility there from a long time ago, and they've had some feelings with each other, and they've had some issues, and so Alexa just being like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. You guys have dealt with a lot of stuff in the past, but at the same time, we have a common enemy. Let's try to team up. Let's see what happens, and let her build your trust type thing. And I would love that. I think it would be really good. Somebody said something in the chat, and I know Wade, you'll bring it up, but just basically going to Rhea. I don't have any problem with Rhea being friends with Io. I don't have an issue with that. It's just so happy and just so. I want Rhea to keep the edge that she had when she was such a badass. I don't want her to lose that vibe. I just don't want her to be so likable towards over the top crazy.
And that goes kind of full circle to your initial point with Io. It wasn't just Io who was really happy. It was Rhea. Chris, how do you think they're doing? How do you think Rhea's doing in terms of keeping her edge and her badass persona, as opposed to, because what I worry about with Rhea is she'll, as she becomes more of a veteran and more of a leader, that she'll become sort of a brand ambassador like Cody or a brand ambassador like Cena. And I don't think that she should take on that role anytime soon. I mean, maybe in 6 years or something, you could rationalize that if there's, a bunch of people have aged out or retired or moved on and there's a bunch of new talent. But she's popular in part because she's kind of alternative. She's, her own person. You don't want her to be corporate Rhea, or just happy Rhea. Like you want there to be a determination and excitement, but also a little bit of angst. And sort of an undercurrent of there's a history there that kind of drives her to succeed. So yeah, Chris, how do you feel they're doing with Rhea?
Not well. I think I've said this before, maybe a couple times that I've been on here, is that, this is kind of what happens when you have the absence of feuds. If there was like a heel that was, pretty over for her to feud with, not even for the title, but just someone that could kind of keep her with that edge, she'd be fine. I know she had the broken nose and she came back, but she kind of doesn't have a purpose. She just seems to be someone who's popular and on the show. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think it's the best for her character, but I think the easy way to turn that around is to give her something to aim at. And I think that's one of the things that's lost, old man rant, lost in pro wrestling these days, is that they don't have as many feuds, just people kind of showing up randomly here and there, as opposed to two people or a tag team or whatever having an issue and then settling it over 2 or 3 months.
Let's throw a couple chat comments in here. Sean, you made reference to some activity in the chat before I throw back to you for more. Derek Hubbard, always good to hear from Derek. I do not mind what's going on with Rhea and Io. Rhea's relationship with Io makes her more than just a badass. It makes her a likable person who stands up for her friends with physical prowess. So yeah, but it is a bit much. And then Derek Mitchell says, I think fans romanticize what War Games is supposed to be, but not sure the women's War Games have that much venom heading into the match. How do you feel about that, Chris, in terms of, we touched on it earlier, maybe is there enough to justify this, or does it feel like, well, we committed to having a women's War Games and now we're just going to do it?
I feel like both War Games that are just kind of thrown together. It's War Games has now become the match for Survivor Series. They don't have the quote-unquote traditional Survivor Series match now. I think they're having that on Smackdown. And so they just try to find ways to weave it together. And I think the original War Games, just even with things with cages, like all these things are brutal. They're having all these problems. You got to put them in one place this was the Four Horsemen, and it was Dusty's group, right? It was Dusty. I've heard the original War Games in like 86, whenever. And it's also part of a tour. While now it just seems to be like around late October, they go, oh, we're about to have War Games. Okay, this person's kind of feuded with this person. We can bring this person back as a surprise and then throw them together. And I think that's kind of it's a total, and I would look like a booking issue, because they don't have the continuity built up for months and months. They're just kind of throwing people randomly together that are kind of loosely affiliated. And, hope that they have big enough names for people to be into it.
A couple other comments here. I think Laps fan says, I think Rhea versus Stephanie Vaquero is a match to make at Mania. Becky would be my second pick for Steph. And there's a follow-up to that. Goodfellas says, Stephanie doesn't need an opponent. I like that idea, but I'd like to see Rhea and Io that arc finish. But you put my brain in a pretzel. Okay. More on topic. I went through those out there, but I want to go back to a couple things here on what we've been talking about. Paul Derby Pete says the Charlotte Flair thing definitely came out of nowhere. Derek Hubbard says, I'm not a fan of Charlotte's reaction. For the first time in the last 6 months, she reverted back to the persona that made her disliked. I think Rhea and Charlotte will have a bury the hatchets moment. Jason 318 says, I don't understand. Jason D318, I should say, Jason Australia. Don't understand Charlotte's hostility to Rhea. They never had a blood feud, so to speak. Rather, it was about who was best. I get Charlotte not wanting to team with Tiffany. Sean, you reacted to that?
No, I can see why Charlotte wouldn't want to team with Rhea. I mean, they've had, big time feuds. I mean, it makes sense why she would not want to do. I mean, it just came out of nowhere because they haven't talked about it. That's what made it so weird. Is like they haven't really built anything around them. It's just all of a sudden she came in and it seemed like they were fine. On last week or on Monday when Rhea came out and they all kind of came out together. So you just assume you would say something there. You wouldn't just do all of a sudden 4 days later be like. But you would say now, in theory, you could say Charlotte had time to think about it, and she just realized, hey, I'm not ready for this kind of moment with Rhea. I'm not ready for that. So I mean, it makes sense why Charlotte wouldn't want to do it. It just felt out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But also to me, part of it is like, why would you do it? Like they just lost their tag team titles. If Charlotte said, well, my focus really is to regain the tag team titles that we lost, that's really more important than entering this dangerous match. That would make a lot of sense.
That's true.
It does go against what Bliss had seemed to be nudging and steering Charlotte into being, which is more of a team player and less of an individual. So, if they're teasing Jade and Charlotte, I mean, I that's why I think it'll be a temporary storyline. And I don't think Charlotte's going heel. I think this is a setback so that they can revisit what made this early dynamic spark, which was Bliss trying to get Charlotte to be a quote unquote better person. Chris is making a good point. They're not a bad person to not want to be in War Games. I'm just saying, I think that's a story. That's how they're going to frame the story that they tell.
Yeah.
Derek Mitchell says, I swear we haven't seen this trope before with the War Games partners last year with Roman and Punk and Bianca and Rhea, so I wouldn't put much into this. Darrell says, I like that Charlotte didn't forget her history with Rhea, and she said that Rhea might not trust her. So that was a good line to put out there. It does feel... It feels somewhat natural, but, there's differing views here in the chat, and I think it's not like, oh God, those two, I can't imagine them ever teaming together. Like you have to kind of go, okay, I can see where Charlotte's coming from, but it's not like, wait, why did Bliss and Rhea think that Charlotte would team with Rhea? Like you don't have that instant thought of, no way. It's not that. And I think that's kind of where Jason was coming from. Real Legend said, if Charlotte doesn't join, do you think Bayley will replace Charlotte and the fifth person would be Lyra? We could explore that if Charlotte does stay out of the match for some reason, and they've got some story arc for that. Bayley and Lyra could be in there, and they could do something there. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think, Chris? And then Sean, you're welcome to respond after that.
I think that's possible. I mean, part of it to me is probably wouldn't happen, but Maxine Dupree's had a feud with Becky Lynch that could work, but I don't see that happening. But yeah, I think Bayley and Lyra could be a good replacement.
Yeah, they could do that, and that's what I say with the War Games. Like, that's the thing about War Games. It comes that they did it so quick, or it felt so quick this time. Like they just kind of did it the last week or week and a half, where we knew War Games was coming here in 2 months out, where you could have built to something like this with the Charlotte and Alexa stuff, and they could have told that story for 3-4 weeks. Where now it's just gonna be like 1 week, next week, Alexa, team with her, let's it'll be okay, we'll work it out, and then Charlotte probably will, but. Or maybe not, we don't know, who knows. But I just think you could tell that long story where, and WWE's usually better about that, where now it just feels so rushed. Like you said, Chris, they're just going to, War Games, got to have War Games now. Let's get all these people together. And so I've never liked that. But I wanted to go to the tournament, seeing this tournament real quick. I wanted to talk about
before you do, Sean, let me read a couple other chat comments. Because we're almost done here. Goodfella says Rhea's turn is coming. Sadler Vision 3 says Rhea cannot turn. She's the biggest babyface on the roster, and nobody is close. So I just want quick answers on this. Sean, you're shaking your head. No, you don't see a Rhea turn.
No, Rhea should not turn. No.
And Chris?
Don't see a turn.
Yep, I'm with you. just throwing it out there. Derek Hudbird says, I'm not worried about Rhea's character. I'm somewhat disappointed she has not had that dominant babyface title run where she carries the brand. She's more than capable and more than over. And yes, I would like to see that. Just get in the Rhea Ripley business and build around a title reign, and that should be enough. As far as Rhea being all chipper and happy with Io, Derek Mitchell says, Rhea's a pet-friendly Kane. When she needs to be a monster, she can be a monster. So she has range to her. I think Kane was a cartoon character. I don't think you want Ripley to be. I think you want Ripley to seem like, she's got some, a core, work face and work attitude and approach to how she does this. And so Mark Biscotti says Rhea hasn't been on track since before WrestleMania. I feel like she deliberately lost size, so it feels like other women have more of a chance, but she could have been the guy, not just a top gal. And seeing if there's anything else that popped up here. Jason D says, I hate the War Games concept. Everyone just beats the crap out of each other, and then once everyone is in, they all have a face-off, as if none of the violence beforehand counted. Yeah. Derek adds about Charlotte. Derek Hubbard. At this stage, I like Charlotte as a backup player with some prestige rather than a main event champion or challenger. And Sadler says, yeah, Charlotte's definitely joining the match. They're just doing the Hangman Swerve thing. And again, that's kind of what I think is happening here. Okay, Sean, feel free to move to another topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the tournament. See, when Cena when they first talked about the tournament, I thought, oh man, I'm not a fan of it only because I want to just build a story with whoever they're going to go with. I thought, well, let's build a story with them and let's just go to this. But now the tournament's more. I'm intrigued. I mean, they've had some cool matchups. I mean, Miz and Jay was fun tonight for what it was. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was fine. I mean, cool. I mean, Zack Ryder didn't do anything for me. I mean, he's okay, but he wasn't my favorite guy. But him and Xavier Knight was kind of a cool cool characters kind of going at each other. Like it was interesting. I just think, where do you think Jay? Like Jay just feels. I mean, he's truly staying a babyface. We've seen that he's not turning heel, which I still think could have helped him in some ways. But they got to do the merge and all that, which is fine. Where do you think they're going with Jay? Like, what track do you think he's on with him and Jimmy? Like, where do you think they're going with him at this point?
It feels like they're in a holding pattern or abandoned something, or they just didn't have a new chapter to tell and whatever's going on with Roman. My guess is we revisit something with Roman when the time is right, but they need to get through War Games first because that's not the story they're telling. Or we'll find out in the next 2 weeks that is a story they're telling, and they just took a week off to kind of lull us into a false sense of security that everything is happy with them. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think something's going to happen at War Games with Jay. I think they're saving it for that.
So lower our guard. So it's more of a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, my hunch is they haven't abandoned anything. They're just waiting for the right time. And just kind of lulling us into not thinking about something happening. So it feels like more of a surprise when it does instead of telegraphing, Sean.
Yeah. So I'm curious where they go with that. Like, I still don't know, where the actual guy's going to be. I mean, I know Gunther's been the guy, and if Gunther's the guy, I mean, I think it would be okay. I mean, it would help kind of, build them back up. One thing I'll say real quick, they have him against Javon Evans coming up. And again, I think, Javon's going to be really good. I wish they wouldn't have had him already on the main roster already. I would have liked to have him have a first match with Gunther. And then kind of build him up to where when he does get to the main roster, he's fine. But we've already seen him already, so it kind of takes away from that a little bit. I wish they'd keep NXT guys. I know they're doing it for the Cena tournament, but in general, keep guys on NXT for a while. With the Dragunov Open Challenge, I mean, it's been fine for me. It feels like even though the matches are really good that he's having with people, we're not getting to see his character other than they had talked backstage a little bit, but I want to still get to know more who Dragunov is. And when he comes out, there's still kind of it's ho-hum. He's getting a little bit of a reaction, but it's not a great reaction. And even the matches are, people are enjoying them, but I don't think they're really like loving Dragunov right now. What do you think? What do you guys think they can do to boost Dragunov up character-wise, not just match-wise? Because we know he's going to have really good matches, and I think he can keep getting over in that way. But what can they do to spice him up, per se, to get people, to really get behind him?
Yeah, Chris, is just Dragunov being a fighting champion who says, Ciampa, I avoided you last week because I want to defend against people who earn it and fight with honor. That's what this U.S. Title Open Challenge is all about. Go prove yourself. And then we'll talk. And here's somebody in Axiom, who I believe fights with honor, and then you go and have a good athletic back and forth match. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to get a good match out of it, and it is, as Sean says, it's not a traditional WWE. Here's a personality profile. Here's some gimmicky thing that they stand for, but there's something kind of refreshing and like foundation. It's just like this foundational character, which is, I'm a really good wrestler. I want to fight with honor. I want to defend this title. I want to become a legend for what I do in the ring. I kind of find it refreshing that they aren't tacking on a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's not like he's just black boots and black boots. I mean, there's a, ring gear and an accent and a ring entrance. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have something that can be, distinctive in terms of his look, but I'm kind of okay with there not being a lot else. What do you think, Chris?
One, I can't say it's an open challenge when you disqualify people for arbitrary reason, like you don't think they have honor, but their tag team partner apparently is
Nick Aldis disagrees. He says he can make up his own rules. It's his own US Open challenge.
It was an open challenge. I think part of it is how you highlight wrestlers. It's like they had that promo in the back, and then I think they went to commercial and went to the kind of set the Bronson Reed, Cody Rhodes match, and then bam, they're in the ring. So there's no ring entrance, and I think part of it is they need to highlight him kind of outside of the ring to get his character over, or just have him simply state, that's the most important thing to me is wrestling in the ring. I'm not someone that's going to talk. I mean, WWE doesn't like to do this, but I'm not someone that's going to cut a long promo. I'm not going to stand here for 20 minutes. I want to go in the ring and defend my title. And that's the most important to me, and kind of focus on that.
Well, I think we're going to get 20-minute promos from Ilya Dragunov starting in January when SmackDown expands back to 3 hours. So there'll be plenty of time for Dragunov character development then. And more video packages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the one thing about Dragunov is, why did he have to get that tattoo on his neck? Like, really,
it's a thing.
I know. I just don't.
He wants to keep up Cody and Dom.
And he went overboard. You think Cody had it bad? Like, look what he did it all over the whole thing. Just put it all over the whole thing. Why don't you? Yeah. I mean, I was like, man, that disappointed me when I first saw him back.
All right, so here's some comments in the chat, Sean, I'll throw in about this topic. Derek Mitchell says Ilya positions himself as a guardian of an unwritten code, seemingly prioritizing honor above all else. But Goodfellas says Axiom had no chance. First night, I wasn't fully invested in a match. They should post some of his workout videos for the TV audience. And okay, that's about the other match. Pile Driver Pete says Ilya gave the speech he gave to Ciampa didn't really make any sense because he gave Gargano a shot out of spite. Ciampa was worse than Gargano because Ciampa was attacked and interrupted in a match that was ongoing. Gargano just interrupted after the match was over. And I think there was enough of a difference there. They could spell it out more, but like if you're looking to spite someone and you give someone else a title shot, that person should have done something less. And then also I just think if you're trying to get under Ciampa's skin, giving it to his partner is a way to kind of create some maybe division within the partnership. I'm okay with it, but I totally get that point of view. Like Derek says, is it truly honorable to dismiss Tommaso Ciampa as a potential challenger based on his arbitrary guidelines, being an honorable and respectable warrior? What is this, Ring of Honor or the Olympics? Again, it wasn't arbitrary, Derek. Ciampa interfered in a match and Gargano didn't. Ciampa and Gargano have both been acting out. So I think there's enough there. Derek Hubbard says Ilya's character is portrayed from bell to bell. Sometimes that can be enough. Danielson got over in the ring and eventually found his voice on the mic. Ilya can do the same. Goodfellas says the Ciampa match should have been tonight.
I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it not. I kind of liked it the way they did that tonight, honestly. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Real Legend says if Ilya just gave Ciampa a match, the whole Ciampa problem would be over and done. And Adam Kidd says, I'm going to go get my throat tatted now. By the way, this is totally unrelated, but I know that if there's a setting, somebody can let me know. I didn't do anything that I know of. We're seeing your @ handles instead of your nicknames on your YouTube accounts. It's possible that StreamYard, the service we use, did that because people were putting things as their nicknames that were not appropriate. So I don't know. But if you have a way for me to change that, let me know. Email me or put it in the chat. But otherwise, here's a quick solution. If you want to be referred to as something else other than your @ handle, just start with that. Just put your name and then a colon and then your comment. I know it's kind of a pain, but you can just clip it, put in the clipboard and paste it in every time you do a comment. I don't think most of you mind, but if there's someone who in particular doesn't want their handle read, I just want to kind of give you that option, and I'll honor that, and if I see your name there, I'll certainly make an attempt to use that instead of whatever your handle is. All right. With that said, Sean, back to you.
Yeah, I wanted to get this off my chest again. I understand it's War Games. I know why they did it. When they had Cody say, I want to defend my title, God forbid, you knew they weren't going to have a freaking finish. God bless America. Why? It just was so... I understand why Cody did what he did, the valor he had for defending his title, but dadgummit, you knew they weren't going to have a freaking finish.
Sean, I said watch your language. It's a family show.
Yes, sir. And why would... And this is another question I have. I understood that, Bronson Reed Cody was getting the upper hand on Bronson per se, right? So I know, quote unquote, Braun Breaker's helping him, or whatever, but wouldn't Bronson be pissed that he's not getting a chance to win the main title in WWE television? Like, why would he not want to go after that? Why would he not be mad that... I know that they always do that, but it just, to me, logically doesn't make any sense. Like, why would he not be mad about that? They
needed to give the match more time for exactly that reason. It didn't make any sense with a world title. And let me finish by that. With a world title on the line, as you said, Sean, to have an intentional disqualification to screw yourself out of a chance to win the world title is insane. It comes across as if one of two things happened. They didn't think about that. They just booked a match they thought would be a quote main event, and they obviously they didn't want to do a finish or even have a long match because it was just a placeholder for the angle. I mean, it was a placeholder for the angle. The match barely got going. Or they rationalize it and they think nobody's thinking about the stuff you're thinking about, Sean. But if you want your audience to disinvest in thinking hard about what you do and just sort of passively watch, do stuff like that. But if you want people really invested, you should have your heels acting in a way that feels like they kind of understand the stakes. I mean, if they had a longer match, like they could have. I mean, I would want to put more thought into it. It's not my job to think about how to book a finish to a main event world title impromptu match. That's their job. But you could have had something almost accidentally happen to Bronson Reed where he got knocked out. And they're wondering if he could even continue. And so it looked like he was about to be counted out anyway. And so that's when Breaker and Logan attacked him because Reed was about to get counted out, and they're saving him from being counted out because he got knocked out on the ring stairs. So the ref gets the 7 and 8. And it's like, he's not going to get up. He's not. And Grace's like, no, he'll get up, or maybe he won't. Boom. Then you have the heels run out so that it's a DQ and not a count out loss. You could. So there's in other words, there's twists on this where, I mean, all they did is get thrown out of the timekeeper's area. They didn't sell the idea that he was down for the count. I think their rationalization would be Cody was clearing the announce desk and they feared that Reed would get hurt. And so they decided to stop that move from happening. I don't think that's running through anyone's minds.
Yeah, I think, Bronson Reed was more focused on running up on Carmelo Hayes to mention that he's going to end John Cena's career. Oh, yeah, by the way, I forgot I have to wrestle Cody too. But, it seems to be that people seem to be more focused on that than wrestling for the world or whatever the championship that he has now. But yeah, I think they should have had some sort of creative angle. I mean, I like countouts or even something where they're both fighting. I mean, that's the problem with WWE because they never have countouts at all. It would have been fine if they were just like wrestling on the outside and just lost track of time and they get counted out and now the match is over. So these guys run in because, the title, there's no title to win, but something like that involves, a different level of thought.
All right. Sean, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just real quick. I do think Heyman needs to explain why Drew is in the match. I do think they need to at least bring it up and talk about it. I mean, it is kind of weird. You're suspended. All of a sudden, you're just in a War Games match. Like, there needs to be an explanation of why Heyman decided he's going to be able to get Drew in the match when all this is obviously screaming and like, no, you can't do this. You can't have this. So I just, explain it. Try to make a little bit of sense, please. Just a little bit. But anyway, that's all I got. Go VIP, everybody. Always fun. Always fun talking with you guys. Wade, always appreciate it, man. It's been 8 years and wouldn't go back.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate your kind words very much.
See you, Chris.
Yep.
See you guys.
Take care.
All right, Chris, let's talk a little bit about the return of Zach Ryder, not Matt Cardona. I know some people are a little upset about that. Corey Graves had, I think, a little quip about that in commentary under his breath. That when he was on NXT, he had a different name or something. So I think we kind of know now the outsiders in this tournament aren't going to be that big of a deal. We had more fun speculating than I think was delivered. But Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder was on our list of possible outside names that Cena hinted might be part of this. Did they do enough with him to? I mean, it depends on how you feel about Matt Cardona, or Zack Ryder. I mean, was that enough just to have him have sort of a face-to-face match against LA Knight? I kind of thought it wouldn't happen because I just didn't think LA Knight was a great opponent for him. So yeah, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, one, it was kind of weird to bring Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona back against Babyface, but I guess it's just kind of where the slot went. First of all, I'm trying to get some more updates. But my friend Joe was at the show with his son, and Joe loved Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona. So I'm sure he's very happy that he could tell his son about seeing him live. But and also another plug for our show, we actually saw Matt Cardona at GCW earlier in January here in Columbus. But I think it was fine. I actually thought he would get a bigger reaction than he did because he is from New York, even though he's from Long Island. But I just thought it was there. Though I think one of the things for me, they chanted "This is awesome" during that match, which I think my eyes almost popped out of my head. But I always liked Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, maybe because he's from Long Island, which is where I'm from, and the whole internet thing I thought was kind of a cool way to kind of get himself over when that was not something that everybody did. So. And I've enjoyed his work on the independent scene. A lot of companies have brought him in because he's a name and he does sell tickets. So I was happy to see him get a match here in a WWE ring, not just in NXT.
All right. I think LA Knight and Matt Cardona are a weird style mix. Like, I don't think there's a lot like for them to do against each other that's going to get the crowd engaged. Like I'm trying. Like, I almost think almost any other opponent would have been better for either of them in that first round. I mean, I'd have to look at the invisible brackets, the mythical brackets for this tournament to see, but I don't know. I mean, it was a first-time matchup, so it was novel. It felt random, and I guess you want a tournament to feel random. You don't want all face-heel matchups, but I don't know. I just, like, Miz and Matt Cardona would have been, just for example, Miz cheats to win. Matt Cardona or Zack Ryder saves face a little bit from that. Gives fans a chance to cheer this guy who's coming back. They kind of like undercut or sabotaged him a little bit.
Yeah, I think that would have been a better story. But I think with him, with Cardona, they're kind of like, we can bring you in under any circumstances whenever we want. So this is what you got. So there you go.
Yeah. Did you have any names you were expecting or hoping, given your viewership and knowledge of the indie scene, when you thought about candidates who could even set politics aside, just like, or the plausibility of it? Was there someone who you think they could have like made a star, had a big debut, or teased somebody, or not teased, but given people a glimpse of somebody who maybe later would end up becoming a star, or even just a one-off fun match? Like, I think there were, several candidates for that. So yeah, anybody come to mind who you could sort of fantasy book into this tournament?
I mean, I was hoping for Joe Hendry because I love Joe Hendry. I love his theme song. I think there are rumors or speculation he's coming to WWE sooner rather than later. He's mentioned he wanted to wrestle John Cena, so that would make sense. Though I know they're having another mystery entrant on Monday, so that could be him. For me, I think someone from TNA has a show tonight, Turning Point at Full Sail, but someone from TNA would have been interesting. Maybe
Dolph Ziggler, I was thinking, would be.
Yeah.
But you bring Dolphin against LA Knight. I mean, they could have a good match, and people would know who he was. I don't know. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's part of it because they do have a show. Nick Nemeth is his name there is wrestling on that show. So I'm trying to think. Someone has a John Cena. The rest, I don't remember his name, but the wrestler in NXT who's the son of Bull Buchanan would have been interesting because Bull Buchanan was with John Cena for about a few months. You have a story there. He's trying to avenge his father, like John Cena didn't support his dad, and you could have made a story about that. But I don't think WWE kind of leads to that type of stuff. But that would have been interesting.
By the way, Sheamus wrestled Javon Evans last night on an NXT house show I attended, And Sheamus won, but he wished Javon luck against Gunther in the tournament. So I don't know if that'll help any, but it was fun seeing that. I meant to bring that up earlier, so just kind of a random thought. Brooks Jensen is who you're thinking of, yeah. So Sean, who was just with us on the phone as a caller, said Obafemi would have been so much better. They will hopefully find the right time for him to debut. Yeah, the thing with if you put Obafemi in here, he either has to win the tournament or you're spoiling his first ever appearance in a lame finish, or he loses to someone you don't want him losing to. You kind of lose the chance to really build him up and define him. So they have to be committed to this tournament being all about Obafemi, because you don't want it to be Oba had a match and then it just is forgotten about and not a big deal. And then in 2 months or 8 months, he shows up again and people go, I remember that guy. He was in a tournament he didn't win. So, in the short run, I agree. It'd have been more compelling, but only if they really were committed to something. Paul River Pete says, I was kind of glad it was Ryder. I was thinking it would be a bigger name and Knight would have been bounced early. So if you like LA Knight, yeah, that's good. Jason D from Australia, bringing the humor. Wade, it was woo 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 versus LA Knight. It's 3 syllables versus 3 syllables. Don't you get it? I'm not giving you points on that. Jason, you can try again. Yeah. All right. Let's see if there's another comment here that Goodfella says I like the Cardona more than the Ziggler idea. Well, so be it.
Cardona's a heel. He's wrestled death matches. He goes out there and insults the crowd, and I think that was never his gimmick in WWE. No. They were not going to use him in that way.
Actually, this is a good up window here because I'm sure you got that. How do you feel about the identities of a wrestler in one area not matching their identity in another area by name, by attitude? This was a really big deal in the late 80s because Jerry Lawler was a heel when he went around the country in the AWA on national television, but he's a babyface in Memphis still. And so people in Memphis, on Memphis TV and in that territory, they saw the normal hometown hero, Jerry Lawler. But then if they watched on ESPN, they saw this, in syndication, this heel, Jerry Lawler, ripping on Kerry Von Erich and all that stuff. So it's been done before. Because I think some fans feel like you should have an obligation. There's probably some Matt Cardona fans who are like, why did they ruin whatever he has going by having him come back and just do his old nostalgia act? So, I mean, how do you feel about how WWE handled this? And what do you think policy-wise about that in general as it relates to wrestlers outside of WWE and then in WWE having consistency with their names, but especially their characters?
I think in relation to Matt Cardona, I think this was the right way to do it, only because even though I'm more interested in his persona as Matt Cardona, the larger audience knows him as Zack Ryder. If he came out there and said, I'm the deathmatch king, a lot of people there would be like, what are you even talking about? So I think a lot of it depends. I think a lot of it is on a case-by-case basis of how well you know someone and what their best persona is. I mean, as a kid, I watched a lot of wrestling, probably too much, to the point that I was joking with the first time I saw The Undertaker come out on Survivor Series, which they now highlight as this great, scary moment. I went to my mom and said, look, Mom, it's Mean Mark Callis. So I think a lot of it is how someone is best be able to, because they are different territories, different places. So WWE, I think, in this case with Cardona, that they did the right thing, and I think it really depends on the person and the angle they're trying to do at the time.
Yep, good explanation. Yep. All right. And I should just point out, I would have been. Derek Mitchell says I would have been interested to see Zach and Chelsea have interaction backstage because they're a couple. I'm fine with them not to. I don't think just because you're married in real life you need to be linked on camera, especially for a one-off. They could have though. I don't think there was I don't think there'd be a downside to it because as Real Legend says, Wade, do you think Zack Ryder's a one-night deal? I do. Do you, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. And Sadler Version 3 goes, if it's 2 different companies, I don't mind 2 different personas, but Zach was just Cardona on NXT like 2 weeks ago. There's certainly less of an obligation if it's 2 different companies, but there's just something about I don't know. It can be logistically complicated, but there's just sort of the traditionalist in me. It's like, if you want us to buy into who you are, if as a promoter you want people to buy into personas of your top stars, you don't want to show other wrestlers arbitrarily bouncing back and forth between 2 very different personalities without explanation. It just, I mean, people know, obviously, their gimmicks and characters and all that, but I don't think you want to, if you can avoid it, avoid it. I mean, I don't know if it's worth being super, super awkward about it. Because, Zach was brought back to be a fun little one-off nostalgia act, and you don't want to completely reintroduce his character without a backstory, especially if it's for a one-off. So not the best example, and I don't feel super strong about it. But all right, we got caller Steve in Cleveland. Let's bring Steve on to the show. Steve, welcome. Good to talk to you.
Good evening, Wade. Good to see you on the air for once.
Yes, this is awesome.
I will tell you, it was nice that Zack Ryder showed up, and I think it'll probably be a one-off, but Can we see maybe some NXT? Can Obafemi show up at some point so I can see the next big superstar hit the ring on either Monday or Friday already?
So when he comes in, you want him to be a big deal. You're a fan of his?
Yes, he's going to be a big deal.
Yes, yeah. I just watched him last night. He was like the biggest presence in a ring full of it was a 6-man tag, and he was biggest presence there. Although Otis pinned. Got the win, like a legacy star. Otis ended up getting, you'd think developmental is for like if you're doing a house show, you'd want to have your local or your developmental talent get a win in front of the fans who paid to see the match. But he also pinned a top NXT star, Trick Williams. So it was a feel-good moment. I think he had a relative or relatives in the crowd too, and all that, and it was fun. But I don't know. That's just a side note. At least Obafemi didn't do the job. But back on track here. I think with Oba, the timing just has to be right. I still always go back to Paul Levesque talking about when people were talking about call-ups when he was running NXT and Vince was running the main roster, and why doesn't that guy get called up? And Levesque would go, we have a lot of people who are ready to be called up, and sometimes people get called up who aren't as ready as others because we need a left fielder, not a catcher. We need a first baseman, not a shortstop. And sometimes when you don't get called up, even when you're ready, it can be seen as a compliment. Because what that means is we don't want to put you in the middle of a show until we can clear the deck and make you the focus. So I think, Obafemi could show up and win the Royal Rumble and be a rocket to the top WrestleMania main event. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but that's the type of thing. I think they want to save him showing up for when they have the bandwidth to make it a really big deal. And I think some people mistake having to wait a while as a sign of disrespect. And I think it can, I'm not necessarily, but I'm kind of saying you got to hold out for the possibility. It just is. He's too important today to rush just because he's ready. We want to pick that big spot when we're ready to really make a big splash with him. And I don't know if in the midst of John Cena's retirement tour you want to do that unless he's going to win the tournament and beat John Cena, or have a really good back and forth match with Cena before, losing to a backslide or something. Chris, what do you think?
I think definitely old school WWE booking. He's primed for a Royal Rumble appearance where he eliminates, 8 to 12 people. I think that would be the best way. I don't see him winning, but I see that would be the best way. The Diesel, Roman Reigns, Kane sort of booking of this person is a future star because they took out a lot of people. Yeah,
he doesn't have to win the Rumble and headline WrestleMania to have a big moment in the Rumble that, they can then frame as it's a buzz-generating performance from Obafemi. Derek Mitchell in the chat says, I know folks are clamoring for Obafemi, but as a black man, I'm not sure I trust the booking on the main roster. Powder Repeat says, Oba made his return in NXT. Unsure if he's getting called up soon, but I'm for it. Goodfella says, we hear the timing thing a lot, but you have to adapt and launch the rocket. And Goodfella says, Oba winning the Rumble would be amazing. I remember I once made a case for having Apollo Crews win the Rumble and shooting him to the top, but that was a long time ago, and I shouldn't volunteer to bring that up. But I was kind of looking around going, there wasn't anything really fresh going on, and I wrote an endnotes commentary in the PWTorch newsletter, kind of making my case for try this. Let's surprise people every now and then. Turns out, in retrospect, it probably would have been a mistake. One of those, sort of first round draft picks of the NFL or NBA where you look back and go, that didn't work out well. But my point is I've advocated for that in the past, Steve, just kind of shooting someone to the top in a real surprising way. Steve, back to you. You can respond to that or bring something else up.
Well, personally, I think one of the ways you go with it perhaps is you have maybe the Vision just absolutely annihilate Cody Rhodes, and then Oba comes out to make the save, and the roof blows off the building. I'll give you a prediction here. Oba and Gunther at the next WrestleMania would be a nice match, I think.
What do you think of that, Chris?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I think that's a feud they used to do this. I think they did a pretty good job last year, but this year. This is a feud that you can actually develop in the Rumble. Have them in the Rumble. Have maybe Obafemi eliminate a bunch of people. Maybe Gunther goes behind him and eliminates him, and then there's a reason for them to fight. It doesn't have to be for the title. They can be in a main program.
And Obafemi's 27. I mean, there's not a rush, but he's the type of person who I've been talking about, and this stemmed from the last Saturday night's main event, where I wrote in the Wade Keller News Bulletin, actually, about how it just felt sluggish. Like Jay and Punk felt kind of sluggish. They felt kind of old, 15% slower than just a few years ago. Well, some would say Jay is always just kind of, a little sluggish in the ring. And then even, Cody and Drew, it's like, I don't think they complement each other. They have a good match, but they don't complement each other's styles as much as some other opponents do for each of them. And so even when you put in a good effort, but the men's matches, the youngest guy other than Dom on the whole show among male wrestlers was 39-year-old Rusev, other than Dom. And he went up to 47. So just getting some fresh blood and some fresh matchups. And as I've advocated for recently too, you want to bring these wrestlers up like Steve is advocating for with Obafemi. Well, other wrestlers can pass the credibility onto them by sharing the spotlight with them, giving them moments. And so you don't want to wait too long and go, well, Paul Levesque seems kind of conservative. He doesn't like the unknown. I don't know. He doesn't want to take a chance. Viewership's down. I don't want it to be blamed on moves I made. So let's just stack the card with a bunch of stars and legacy wrestlers. But that can stagnate the product, the big boom periods, and come. And I think a lot of viewers look for and kind of need to see new young stars on a fresh journey. That's something WWE on the men's side especially has been lacking lately. That's why people got excited about Sammy and Jay and even LA Knight. Because it's like, hey, they've been around, but it's a new journey and they're moving to the top. You got to give fans a sense that there's new things happening, either with talent that's been around a while that you're looking at in a new way, or fresh talent, like people being excited about what's happening with Dom lately.
Another thing about tonight, guys, is that I do like the fact that they kind of put the longer term booking into it, where Charlotte came out and said, listen, I know we're all kumbaya and war games, but I don't really like her and she really doesn't like me. Frankly, I think I'll be stunned if you don't see the EST of WWE show up to take one of those spots on this War Games team.
Yeah. Timing wise, I mean, there's just been reports, and I reported that her hand it's a type of injury where if there's a setback, it can be really bad. So they want it to be fully healed. Because it's, it seems like, oh, it's just a hand, but it's like, it's a hand. You don't want to do permanent nerve damage or set her back more. But I haven't heard a, update. I mean, we haven't had any official updates on her. So if she's ready, that'd be a big return. Chris, what do you think about the lay of the land for that?
Yeah, I think that would be one of the things that would be cool to see for Bianca Belair to come back. But then again, it's kind of like thrown in. It's like she last was feuding with Jade and Naomi, neither of which are in the War Games match. And she makes her valiant return just to be the fifth person. It just seems to not make sense.
Yeah.
Well, clearly I don't see, to be frank, anybody on NXT that I'd bring up for that. I think the hottest things coming from NXT were really more on the men's side than the women's. I mean, I think they've got the overall depth, but I don't see a top person that's, oh my God, that person's ready to shoot it to the moon right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think part of it is just not having the feuds developed. But I don't think this is a good place. They already have Lash Legend as someone who kind of came from NXT being brought in. That's you don't want to bring too many people in that same kind of circumstance.
Guys, great show as always.
Thanks, Steve. Call again. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, cool. So just let's focus for a second on the opening segment. In terms of, we talked about the dynamic with Rhea and Io. We talked about the Charlotte Alexa thing, but they are trying to establish War Games by having teammates stand together. And so once in between the Charlotte thing, which sort of is a dominant news story coming out of that, and the Rhea Io dynamic, there was a little bit of Rhea talking as a leader well, still wearing a nose guard, by the way, about the Jackson Lash Legend being added to the mix, and now the heel group feels are untouchable. It wasn't like huge headline stuff, but I like that there was some substance to it before they just got to the Charlotte thing that kind of, obviously rightfully so, got all the attention. But I'm glad they did follow up with Nia and Lash in terms of just the babyface team talking about it. So because it should be on their minds, and it is a big deal. Chris, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like the fact that they did bring that up. That they're showing. I mean, we joked about their sort of being a bit too jokey about the whole thing, but it showed they have a little bit of anger that they're trying to get out in the War Games match. The funny thing for me personally during the backstage segment when they were, I guess, trying to figure out how to convince Charlotte, and they got attacked. My 7-year-old daughter walked in the room and said, "Why aren't they fighting in the wrestling ring?" And I just told her to leave because it's one of those wrestling questions that I really don't have an explanation for.
Yes, that's funny. What do you think of Lash Legend?
I think she's really talented. I'm glad that they brought her in this spot. It's somewhere she's in the War Games, and she can actually show a lot of her power and presence. The one thing with her is, she's a really good promo, so I want her to get that opportunity to do that. But that may happen down the line after this match. But I think she's in a good spot, provided they keep her in good positions.
What do you think of the match quality, even though it's just 11 minutes, of Axiom and Ilya Dragunov?
I thought it was fine. I think it's one of those matches where, the crowd gets more into it as the match goes on, which is good. It just seems to me more of like the story, the presence of either isn't really built up much by having this match. It's a good match for TV. Dragunov wins, and then has obviously lead to DIY fracture match. But it was fine. There was some good action. The crowd did some oohs and ahs for the move. Yeah. So that was good.
I would watch them wrestle a longer amount of time, even without more of a story. I mean, it is one of the plus sides of SmackDown going to 3 hours. I mean, I think it's ultimately a bad idea. I think they thought maybe viewership would go up more if they cut it to 2, and now they're like, well, we might as well get the extra ad dollars. There could be something else. I haven't checked on it yet. But I think you get some longer, high-quality matches to fill the 3 hours, and more video packages and longer Ilya Dragunov promos. One thing won't get longer is Jade Cargo matches, apparently. She beat BFAB in about 2 minutes. I know it fits her character as a heel to just dominate, but even her match with Tiffany Stratton at SummerSlam, and then the other one, they don't trust her for a long time in the match, and it just feels like there's some work being done to protect her. What did you think of her presentation? And again, even if she could work 20-minute classics, I think beating BFAB in 2 minutes is fine in a dominant way. So in and of itself, it's not bad, but it is another indicator that it's probably not just a booking character decision. They just think the longer she wrestles, maybe the more she'll be exposed. What do you think?
Well, the crowd chanted one more time. She was at the end of the match. So in a way, sometimes you don't want to have her be too dominant because she's supposed to be a heel. Yeah, I also I think one of the things that I learned from wrestling coast to coast with covering is, everyone doesn't have to do a long match. And in this TV format, don't have her do a long match if it's not really the right thing for her, and wait until that time is right. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Sami Zayn came out and revealed to Solo Sikoa that he is fine. He is cleared and he wants to fight, and then he fought. And then that led to a 5-on-5 brawl with a bunch of others. And Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Ray Phoenix, Shinsuke Nakamura joined Sami in a fight against the MFTs and Solo, the full MFTs now. So Nick Aldis told Solo later, Our time is full. We don't have room for another match, which is kind of fun. You don't hear that very much. Usually if someone wants a match, they just book it. And there just happens to be that gap in the show, where you can fill it. But in this case, I'll just we're booked up, but in 2 weeks, you can have a traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination style match. So we're not going to put a 5-on-5 match on the PLE, but we'll give it to you the night before. I was worried he's going to say it's a War Games match the night before. Give us 3 War Games matches in 48 hours or 28 hours, roughly, probably is a better way to put it. But I mean, it's fun. It's the show before PLE. They've already got their storylines largely in place, so this will fill 45 minutes or so, probably. I don't know how. Maybe not that much. That might be overstating it, given who's in it. But it plays to what I said about why they've kind of moved away from these. Is when it's really big names, you have to have a lot of big names do jobs, or you have to have a bunch of countouts and DQs and lame finishes. Because by definition, to win, you got to pin or submit 5 people on one team. If it's 5-on-5, I don't think they have a problem doing that in this match. I think Sabin and Shelley and Phoenix and Shinsuke can all do jobs. Sammy can be outnumbered and screwed over. Who knows? So what do you make of this match, the way they set it up, and what do you think they're up to? Is it just a time filler, or do you think this is a storyline driver?
I think both. So I did like the way it was set up. As I said earlier, they actually seem to have a better reason setting up this match than the War Games matches, because they actually have a connection. You have an existing faction with Solo, and then the fact that they've been feuding with Motor City Machine Gun, Shinsuke, Ray Phoenix, and Sammy. Sammy's from Montreal, which is about 3.5 hours from Albany. So he got a good reaction, and it was a good way to sort of introduce him into back into wrestling. And also like the fact that, I think Solo's gotten into his character. I think the character he was playing maybe in the Bloodline and just out of it wasn't really the best for him, but he seems to be getting better in this role. So I'm actually interested. I'm one of the few people, it was very upsetting for me when I got older to find out that those matches didn't draw. Because as a kid, I loved Survivor Series matches and the interesting combinations you had. So when I found out that people didn't like to see them, it was like, oh, wow, I love Rude's Brood and everyone wearing crowns with Macho Man or the 2x4s with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So I think it's, now they only have one of those matches. So I think this is a good way to present that.
Yeah, I've said this before, but the genesis of Survivor Series was just to throw a match that would not hurt house show attendance, to put a card together that would not hurt house show attendance, but put Starrcade, Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW shows out of business or hurt their business. So we're just going to throw a show together, a pay-per-view together. But they just said, well, we'll just do these 5-on-5 matches because we don't want, it wasn't because it was a draw and they thought it was super novel. And it was just there to bump Starrcade off of pay-per-view clearances, because many cable companies can only offer one pay-per-view at a time. And so like, well, it's just, we don't want to give away the singles match that we're selling tickets to at the house shows. So they decided, we'll do 5-on-5. They knew it wasn't like this super, they didn't think it was awful, but they knew it wasn't like a prime feud. But there were people have a fondness for them because of what you said, the novelty of seeing people teaming together who don't normally team together, and matchups, people battling each other you don't normally see wrestle each other. And there is a novelty to that. It's not great to go live because you have 4 bodies standing on the ring on both sides, and you can block the view. My favorite moment at the NXT house show last night was Otis in the tag team main event when he jumped on the ring apron for the tag match. He looked behind him and he apologized to the fans, and he said, I know you're not going to be able to see anything with me standing here. I'm sorry, but I got to do my job. It was awesome. Otis was really, really fun. Just brought the energy and the personality. But yeah, he has a wide body, and if you got a front row seat behind him, you're not going to see much of the ring at all. That was very funny. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't thought about enough to think if a storyline will come out of it. But what do you think of what's going on with Sammy? Anything more you want to add as far as his journey and his character development?
I just thought, well, it is kind of odd that he on Raw was really focused on being the WWE world champion, whatever it's called over there. And he's like, on SmackDown, I wanted to be the US champion. And it was like, well, why wouldn't you go to he has a very good story of he's this legendary wrestler that people love that's never been the world champion. And that he's at a point of his career where that should be his main focus. And yeah, he can be deterred by someone like Solo for a while, but it just seems to be kind of odd that he is focused on that when, obviously no babyface, but to me, it seems like he spent a lot of time this year being focused on that, and he's kind of just turned away from it now because he's on SmackDown. Yeah.
A fun comment here from Goodfell in the chat. Solo runs the mid-card. He's so fun and unserious. Jason Australia says, I love Solo calling Sammy selfish, but then immediately saying he loves the fact that the MFTs are loyal to him, directly explaining his selfishness. Sean says, Solo has been a lot better on the mic lately. And he adds, I like that too, Jason, in reference to his comment about Sammy being selfish, and but then says he likes the MFTs being loyal to him. So, Chris, your thoughts on Solo and what they're doing with him? He does kind of run the mid card. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things we talked about before. He is a very new wrestler, new to the wrestling business, and I think probably because of his family background, he was kind of put in a role that he wasn't suited for, and he might be suited for it down the line. But I think he's in a place where he can do his best at this time, and so I think he's improved. I mean, I remember we went to SmackDown, Justin and I in Dayton, and they had a shirt from the SummerSlam the year before, and like, oh, he was in the main event against Cody at SummerSlam in 2024, and so I don't think he's someone who'd be in the main event now in this role, but he's doing a lot better, and I think he's more comfortable doing this, and I think that's better for him in the long run.
Another comment in the chat about Solo. No, I lost it. How did I lose it? Someone wants to know what Sammy's team name should be, because we're reminiscing about Survivor Series teams. I haven't thought about that. Anything come to mind, Chris?
Sammy's Whammy. Shout out to Press Your Luck.
I love it. Derek Mitchell says they're booking a traditional 5-on-5 match from SmackDown before Survivor Series, not different than them booking a multi-person world tag match like they've traditionally done. I mean, it's the show before the PLE, and it's not a real huge deal. Anything else, Chris, jump out on tonight's show that you want to bring up that we haven't covered yet, or anything you want to follow up on?
Oh, the only thing I think Derek Mitchell had a thing in the chat where he said he wasn't sure about how WWE would book black male wrestlers, and they haven't
trust them.
They haven't had too many. They're booking too many single basis. They have a lot of stars in NXT. Actually, they have stars in WWE ID as well. The WWE ID champion Cappuccino Jones is black, but I think someone like Obafemi is a project and for NXT, and I think that NXT in this current iteration of WWE, NXT projects are going to be given a lot of bandwidth. So hopefully it will not lead to some of the issues that we've seen previously.
By the way, Jason says Solo's to the side laugh does crack me up. But you mentioned Press Your Luck. No whammies, LOL, says Goodfella. A shout out to that show. And Sean says, yeah, Press Your Luck is awesome. Was that the show where somebody was able to figure out the pattern on the show?
Yes.
Like, boop, 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 and he like timed it, and he just got all these prizes. That's a fun.
Yes.
There's like probably a YouTube story up.
Yeah, there's a documentary. I think there's a documentary or a movie on it.
Yeah.
We actually mentioned this because Justin watched it at one point. But yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. Before you could truly randomize things, somebody just thought no one's going to figure this out, and they did. Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, Chris?
No, I think that's it. Wrestling Coast to Coast on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone check that out. It's free. And you can get an ad-free version of it with a VIP membership. PWTorch.com/GoVIP to get a VIP membership, and you get $9 off with the coupon code NOV2025. That is NOV2025 if you want to get a VIP membership for just $3.99 for a full month. That is a full VIP membership. So that means you also gain access to all the archives and our customizable podcast feed. So you can subscribe to, on your smartphone, on your podcast app of choice, to an individual show or clusters of shows or themes, like all current shows and then all the retro shows. All the pay-per-view roundtables, all the episodes of the Wade Keller show, whatever. So that's another benefit of a full VIP membership. All details at pwtorch.com/govip. Click on the link to take you to the sign-up form, and then in checkout, enter NOV as in November, NOV 2025 to take $9 off, whichever option you choose. And again, we offer discounts. That $9 coupon can apply to a 3-month or a 12-month subscription also. Thanks again, everybody, and we appreciate you joining us today. Spread the word. Let people know about this show on social media. Publicize the links, and comment below if you have feedback on the show, especially if you're listening to us on delay, and give us that 5-star rating in the podcast app that you're using. That always helps, too. Thanks, everybody.